There's a question that has haunted leaders, parents, entrepreneurs, and, well, anyone who's ever held influence over another human being for over 500 years. It's a question so dangerous that when Niccolò Machiavelli first posed it in 1513, his book was actually banned by the Catholic Church, condemned as the work of the devil himself. The question is this: is it better to be loved or feared? But here's what nobody tells you. Machiavelli never said you had to choose. Right now, somewhere in the world, there's a leader everyone adores, but nobody respects. Their kindness is mistaken for weakness. Their generosity breeds entitlement. They wonder why people walk over them despite all the good they do. And in another corner of the world, there's a leader everyone fears, but nobody follows willingly. Their authority creates obedience, but the moment their back turns, rebellion begins. They confuse intimidation with influence, control with respect. Both are dying slow deaths of irrelevance, and neither understands why. By the end of this video, you'll understand the psychological machinery behind true influence, the kind that makes people choose to follow you, respect your boundaries, and remain loyal even when you're not watching. You'll discover why the world's most powerful figures throughout history mastered something most people never even attempt. The paradox of being both feared and loved simultaneously. But I need to warn you about something critical right now. If you're tempted to skip ahead or jump through sections, you're essentially taking half a medication and wondering why you're not healing. This isn't information you can cherry-pick. It's a complete system, and like Machiavelli's own strategies, every piece depends on understanding what came before it. If you're in a rush, watch at double speed, but don't skip. Skipping a section here is like reading only the odd-numbered pages of a chess strategy book and wondering why you keep losing. The power is in the sequence. Let's begin where most people get everything wrong. For centuries, people have quoted Machiavelli's most famous passage out of context. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But notice that crucial phrase, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for fear over love. He was stating a fallback position, a survival tactic for when you lack the skill to achieve what he considered the ultimate form of power, being simultaneously feared and loved. And here's where it gets interesting. Most people think fear and love are opposites, like hot and cold, light and dark. They're not. They're complementary forces, like tension and release in music, like boundaries and freedom in relationships. The masters of influence, the ones who build empires, transform organizations, raise exceptional children, and command unwavering loyalty, they understand something profound. Media montage of diverse leaders addressing teams, wide shot of parents engaging positively with children, time-lapse of city-building skylines. Fear without love creates tyrants who rule through terror until they're inevitably overthrown. Love without fear creates pushovers who enable dysfunction and breed contempt. But fear with love, that's something else entirely. That's a parent whose child knows they're unconditionally loved, but would never dream of disrespecting them. That's a leader whose team adores them, but would never miss a deadline. That's a person whose presence commands respect the moment they enter a room, yet everyone gravitates toward them. The question isn't which one to choose. The question is, what do these words actually mean? Because the moment you understand what Machiavelli really meant by fear and love, everything changes. Let me tell you about a man who walked this tightrope better than almost anyone in history. The man Machiavelli himself studied obsessively. Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent. Florence, 1478. Lorenzo is 29 years old, the de facto ruler of the most powerful banking empire in Europe. His family's wealth makes them kingmakers, but it also makes them targets. On April 26th, during High Mass at the Florence Cathedral, assassins strike. The Pazzi conspiracy, backed by Pope Sixtus IV himself, aims to murder both Lorenzo and his brother Giuliano. In the chaos, Giuliano is stabbed 19 times and dies on the cathedral floor. Lorenzo barely escapes with a neck wound, barricading himself in the sacristy. Here's where most leaders would have responded with pure vengeance or pure mercy, and both would have destroyed them. Pure vengeance, executing everyone connected to the conspiracy, would have turned him into a bloodthirsty tyrant, alienating allies and creating martyrs. Pure mercy, pardoning the conspirators, would have signaled weakness and invited future attacks. Lorenzo did neither, and his response is a masterclass in the duality of fear and love. First, the fear. Within days, the conspirators were hunted down. The punishment was swift, public, and unmistakable. Some were hanged from the windows of the Palazzo della Signoria, others were executed in the town square. But here's the crucial detail. Lorenzo personally ensured that only those directly involved faced consequences. No witch hunts, no collective punishment, no paranoid purges. The message was precise: attack me, and the response will be certain and severe, but I'm not a monster who punishes the innocent. Then, the love. Lorenzo immediately after the executions commissioned art, funded public festivals, forgave debts owed to the Medici Bank by ordinary Florentines, and walked through the streets without guards, embracing citizens, listening to their concerns. He wept openly at his brother's funeral, showing his humanity. He sponsored the greatest artists of the Renaissance, Michelangelo, Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci, transforming Florence into the cultural center of the world. The result? Lorenzo ruled Florence for another 14 years with almost no opposition. People genuinely loved him. Songs were written about him. Yet nobody dared challenge his authority. If this resonates, you know exactly why some leaders inspire lifetime loyalty while others can't keep employees for 6 months. It's not about being nice or being tough. It's about being both strategically in the right proportions. Now let's break down the actual psychology behind why this works, because once you see the machinery, you can't unsee it. Modern neuroscience has revealed something Machiavelli intuitively understood. The human brain makes decisions based on 2 primary systems: the reward system and the threat detection system. When someone loves you, when they feel genuine affection, appreciation, or loyalty, the ventral striatum in their brain lights up. This is the same area activated by romantic love, by seeing your child smile, by achieving a goal you've worked toward for years. This creates approach behavior. They move toward you. They want to be near you. They volunteer their best efforts. When someone fears you, not in the sense of terror, but in the sense of respecting your boundaries and consequences, the amygdala activates. This isn't the panic-inducing fear of a tiger chasing you. It's the measured, respectful caution that says, this person has standards. There are lines I should not cross. Here's the key. When both systems activate simultaneously, you create what psychologists call optimal tension. Think about the best coach you ever had, the teacher who transformed your life, the boss who made you better. Chances are you deeply respected them, maybe even loved them, but you also knew they wouldn't tolerate excuses. You felt safe with them, but you also felt the need to rise to their standards. That's optimal tension. Studies from Stanford's social neuroscience lab show that people perform at their highest levels when they experience what researchers call secure attachment, with high expectations. Secure attachment is the love component. I believe in you. I've got your back. You matter to me. High expectations is the fear component. But I will not accept mediocrity from you because I know you're capable of more. Comment below if you've ever had a mentor or parent who embodied this perfectly, someone you'd never want to disappoint but who made you feel capable of anything. Your story in the comments might be exactly what someone needs to hear right now. The ancient Stoics understood this principle without brain scans. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the headland against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." Notice the metaphor. The headland doesn't attack the waves, which would be pure fear, nor does it dissolve into them, which would be pure love. It stands firm and provides shelter. It's unmovable yet protective. Eastern philosophy offers a parallel wisdom. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna instructs Arjuna to fight with detachment, to fulfill his duty, the fear component of maintaining order and justice, while maintaining love and compassion for all beings. The integration of firmness and love, duty and compassion, creates what's called dharma, righteous action. But here's where most people catastrophically misunderstand what these words mean in practice. Let's destroy some dangerous myths. Fear does not mean intimidation, cruelty, or making people walk on eggshells. When Machiavelli talks about being feared, he's talking about a very specific kind of fear. The fear of natural consequences, the fear of disappointing someone you respect, the fear of losing something valuable. Watch a master parent in action. Their child doesn't fear physical punishment or screaming. The child fears the look of disappointment in their parents' eyes. They fear losing privileges they've earned. They fear the natural consequence of their choices. And paradoxically, this kind of fear makes the child feel more secure, not less, because they know exactly where the boundaries are. Bad fear, the kind that destroys relationships and organizations, is unpredictable, disproportionate, and emotionally abusive. It's the boss who explodes randomly. It's the partner who uses love as a weapon, withdrawing affection as punishment. It's the leader who creates paranoia. Machiavelli explicitly warns against this. Men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot. In plain English, if you're going to establish fear, make it consistent, proportional, and crystal clear. Petty tyranny creates resentment and eventual rebellion. Love does not mean being nice, avoiding conflict, or never saying no. Real love, the kind that builds powerful relationships and loyal teams, is not conflict avoidance. It's not saying yes when you should say no. It's not protecting people from the consequences of their actions. Real love says, I care about you enough to tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Real love sets boundaries because it values the relationship too much to let resentment build. Real love holds people accountable because it believes they're capable of growth. The person who never challenges you, never pushes you, never holds you to a standard, they don't love you, they're indifferent. They've given up on your potential. Think about the difference between these two scenarios. Scenario 1, your employee misses a third deadline. You say nothing because, you don't want to be the bad guy. You smile, absorb the extra work yourself, and secretly resent them. They interpret your silence as approval and, just continue the pattern. Eventually you explode or fire them. They're totally blindsided because you never communicated clearly. They leave thinking you're unpredictable and unfair. Scenario 2, your employee misses a third deadline. You call a private meeting. You start with the love component. I value your work and I believe you're capable of more than what I'm seeing. Then the fear component. But missed deadlines affect the entire team. If this pattern continues, we'll need to reconsider your role here. Then back to love. What support do you need to succeed? Let's create a plan together. You've established consequences, fear, while demonstrating that you care about their success, love. Which leader would you rather work for? Which one actually helps the employee improve? Share this with someone who needs to see these signs. A new manager, a parent struggling with boundaries, an entrepreneur wondering why their team isn't performing. Now let's get tactical. So how do you actually implement this in real life? The fear component, establishing healthy boundaries and consequences. Step 1, define your non-negotiables. What are your absolute standards? Not just arbitrary rules, but principles that, if violated, fundamentally damage the relationship or organization. For a parent, it might be, we treat each other with respect. We don't lie. We honor our commitments. For a leader, we deliver on promises to clients. We support each other. We take ownership of mistakes. For a friendship, we're honest with each other. We respect each other's time. We don't betray confidences. Write these down. Make them crystal clear. The fear component only works when people know exactly what the boundaries are. Step 2, communicate consequences in advance. Machiavelli's insight was that fear is most powerful when it's predictable. Unpredictable punishment creates anxiety. Predictable consequences create security. If you miss curfew, you'll lose phone privileges for a week. If this project is late, we'll need to reassess your role on future projects. If you cancel plans last minute again, I'll stop making them with you. Notice, these aren't threats. They're just clear cause and effect statements, delivered calmly. Step 3, follow through consistently. This is where, honestly, most people fail. They set a boundary, the boundary gets crossed, and they don't enforce the consequence because they want to be nice. This is actually cruelty disguised as kindness, because now the person doesn't know what to expect. Boundaries become negotiations, standards become suggestions. When Lorenzo de' Medici said there would be consequences for the conspirators, he followed through completely. This established his credibility. When he set standards for his court, people knew he meant them. The love component, building genuine connection and investment. Step 1, demonstrate that you see them. Love, at its core, is attention. It's witnessing someone fully and valuing who they are, not just what they produce. The leader who remembers their employee's kid's name and asks about the soccer game, that's love. The parent who puts down their phone and makes eye contact during dinner, that's love. The friend who notices you're quieter than usual and checks in, that's love. Machiavelli understood this. He studied how Lorenzo would walk through Florence, personally greeting citizens, remembering names, asking about their families. This wasn't manipulation. Lorenzo genuinely invested in knowing his people. Step 2. Provide support before it's asked for. Don't wait for people to fail and then punish them. Anticipate obstacles and help them succeed. I notice this project has a tight deadline. What resources do you need? This test is coming up. Want to study together? You seem stressed lately. How can I help? This creates psychological safety, the foundation of the love component. Step 3. Celebrate wins and acknowledge growth. People will walk through fire for leaders who genuinely celebrate their successes, not with empty praise, but with specific, meaningful recognition. The way you handled that difficult client conversation showed real growth. 6 months ago, that would have escalated. You kept it professional and found a solution. That's exactly the leadership I'm talking about. That level of specific acknowledgement, that's love, and it creates fierce loyalty. Here's the secret. You alternate emphasis based on context, but you never abandon either component. When someone is struggling, you lead with love, but you maintain fear in the background. I know this is hard, and I'm here to support you, but we still need to hit this deadline. What do you need from me to make that happen? That's fear as accountability, not as a threat. When someone is coasting or pushing boundaries, you lead with fear while keeping love in the background. This pattern of lateness isn't acceptable and needs to stop immediately. I'm bringing this up because I know you're better than this, and I want you to succeed here. And when someone is performing well, you emphasize love but keep fear implicit. You've been crushing it lately. I'm genuinely impressed. Keep this up. There's that implicit fear of losing approval if standards drop. You know you've mastered this balance when people would be equally devastated to lose your approval as they would to face your consequences. Your child isn't afraid you'll yell. They're afraid of disappointing you. Your employee isn't afraid you'll fire them. They're afraid of letting you down. Your friend isn't afraid you'll end the friendship. They're afraid of damaging something they value. That's the zone of optimal influence. That's what Machiavelli was really describing. If you've been nodding along, if this is crystallizing something you've always felt but couldn't quite articulate, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is dedicated to breaking down the real psychology of influence, power, and human behavior that actually works in the real world. Not toxic manipulation tactics, but ancient wisdom validated by modern science. And speaking of modern science, let me show you one more fascinating study that honestly proves Machiavelli was 500 years ahead of psychology. In 2019, researchers at the University of Amsterdam conducted a massive meta-analysis of leadership studies spanning 50 years and over 30,000 participants. They were trying to answer the age-old question, what makes an effective leader? And they found something remarkable. The least effective leaders fell into two categories. Those rated high on compassion but low on competence and standards. That's pure love, no fear. And those rated high on competence and standards but low on compassion, pure fear, no love. The most effective leaders, the ones with the highest performing teams, the lowest turnover, and the strongest organizational cultures, were rated high on both dimensions simultaneously. The researchers called this integrated leadership, but honestly, Machiavelli could have told them that in 1513. Here's what else they found. People don't want leaders who are their friends. They don't want leaders who are their drill sergeants. They want leaders who believe in them enough to demand their best and support them enough to help them achieve it. This applies to every relationship dynamic, not just organizational leadership. The most successful parents, high warmth, high standards. The most impactful teachers, high support, high expectations. The most trusted friends, high loyalty, high honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. And here's the part that might surprise you. When researchers asked participants whether they'd rather work for someone they loved but didn't respect, or someone they respected but didn't love, the overwhelming majority said they'd rather work for someone they respected. But when they asked, would you ever go above and beyond for someone you respected but didn't feel cared for you? The answer was no. The magic is in the combination. Let me leave you with this. Machiavelli has been called cynical, manipulative, and immoral for 500 years. But what if we've misunderstood him completely? What if he wasn't advocating for cold, calculated manipulation, but for the integration of strength and compassion, of boundaries and love, of consequences and care? What if he was saying, you can't love people effectively without the strength to protect what you've built, and you can't command respect without genuine care for those you lead. The world is full of people who are trying to be liked, sacrificing their boundaries, enabling dysfunction, and wondering why they feel resentful and powerless. The world is also full of people who are trying to be respected, wielding authority like a weapon, creating fear through intimidation, and wondering why people abandon them the moment they can. Both paths lead to loneliness. But there's a third path, the path of integrated power. The path where people choose to follow you. The path where your presence alone establishes order, because everyone in the room knows you're someone who values them and holds standards. This is the path Lorenzo walked through Florence. This is the path master parents walk with their children. This is the path exceptional leaders walk with their teams. And, this is the path you can walk in every relationship in your life. You don't have to choose between being feared and being loved. That's a false choice created by people who've never mastered either. The real question is, are you brave enough to be both? Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Being simultaneously feared and loved requires something most people avoid. It requires you to be authentic, to have genuine standards, to care deeply, and to hold boundaries firmly. It requires you to stop performing either niceness or toughness, and to integrate both into who you actually are. It's easier to be one or the other. It's easier to be the nice person who avoids all conflict or the tough person who pretends not to care. Integration is harder. Integration requires wisdom, self-awareness, and courage. But integration is what creates the kind of influence that lasts, the kind that transforms lives, the kind that builds legacies. Machiavelli's secret wasn't that it's better to be feared than loved. His secret was that the truly powerful never had to choose. If this video changed how you think about influence, power, and relationships, share it with someone who's struggling to find that balance, the new manager who's trying to be everyone's friend, the parent who's burned out from having no boundaries, the entrepreneur who can't figure out why their team doesn't respect them. Your comment might be exactly what they need to hear. Your story about someone who embodied this balance, or about your journey trying to find it, that story matters. Drop it below. Let's build a community of people who understand that real power isn't about domination or submission, it's about integration. And if you want more content like this, deep dives into the psychology of influence, ancient wisdom validated by modern science, practical strategies for mastering yourself and your relationships, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because the truth is, Machiavelli was just getting started. The Prince is 37 chapters long, and this video only covers one principle. Imagine what we'll uncover together. Remember, don't be loved or feared. Be both, be integrated, be someone people choose to follow. That's true power, that's Machiavelli's secret.